Great Friday morning, everyone. How are you all doing? As I say every morning, this is your girl, Shan. I apologize for my tardiness. For some reason, it was really difficult trying to go live this morning on this video. So for the second time, I'm going to go ahead and jump into today's topic. So I'm going to ask a really hard question. This video may not be as animated as the last couple of days, but I just want us to really think and think deep, especially if we're in marriage. If you are single, you know I'm going to always say something for you to think about. But I want us to ask the hard question. Good morning, Dalisha. Are you guilty of taking your spouse for granted? Are you guilty of taking your spouse for granted? You know, something that really, oh my God, it irritates my flesh. Let me say it like that, where it almost make me just instantly upset is when I'm around people and I see, good morning, Simone. Hey, Bernard. When I'm around people and I see that they take their spouse for granted. Hey, Natasha. And so, you know, this is something I want to say I said it one time before, but it's just something to think about. Because when you talk to a husband and wife, or say in the way that I'm allowed to, the way, whether it be the radio show, the profession, whatever the case may be, when you talk to a husband and wife and you can blatantly see, and some of y'all can see it and you're not even in the profession or whatnot, but you can blatantly see that they take their husband or their wife for granted. I wanted to just put it all out there on the table. Good morning, Cousin Kim, because you know, good morning, Alex. Natasha, you funny. I just kind of want to put it out there on the table because people don't want to talk about things. You know what I'm saying? But it's the real conversations that need to be had, especially in our marriage, for our marriage to be a success. Do you take advantage of your spouse, or are you guilty of ever taking advantage of your spouse? And see, this is something that kind of burns me up, and I'm going to bring the play/movie into it. Good morning, Princess. I know, right? And so I'm just going to make it plain to what I'm talking about. Remember the movie and the play Diary of a Mad Black Woman. And for some of y'all who haven't seen it, good morning, Rudy. I need y'all to go ahead and check that out. What burns me up is we have phases of marriage. I'm going to say it like that. We have phases of marriage. Before, you know, you're dating, you get married. Some get married, you already have children. Some get married, you're pregnant, whatever the case may be. But let's just talk about the stage of before you have children. You get married, you still getting to know each other. Everything is seeming nice. And then life changes start to happen. You start to build your family and things like that. You start to have children. We do not realize sometime in our life-changing phase of where we start to build our family that's when the taking advantage of your spouse takes place. Because think about it. Now you're inviting children into I ain't gonna say inviting, but you are building your family. Let me say it like that. Good morning, Shauna. You're building your family and things like that. And you have to get used to, as a husband and a wife, a new routine. When you start building your family, if you didn't come with a ready-made family, you know, like me and my husband did, but when you start building your family, you do not understand that it takes us as husbands and wives to do whatever we have to do to make sure that our families maintain. A lot of people don't understand, especially people that were spoiled or people who always got their way, that when you have children, baby, it's no longer about you. Okay, it's no longer about you. Maybe you don't understand it, and I'm gonna speak from a woman's perspective. Maybe I wouldn't understand that as a wife, but then when it comes to my husband, good morning, Janie, or whatever, he understands it. So he's the one that's always, as we say in the country, seeing after the kids and doing for them and different things like that. And so then somewhere in there, progression is wanted. You see what I'm saying? And so maybe it's one or both of the spouses going to college, or, you know, trying to progress on their job. And so it takes a little bit of time away from your family dynamic. And maybe in the beginning you're saying, hey, this is just for a short time. But see, this is what makes my skin crawl right here, is when progression starts to happen for the individual or both individuals in the marriage. And then the husband or the wife don't pay attention to how much work, I'm going to say it like this, that the other one puts in. They start to take it for granted. So say, for instance, and this is just how me and my husband's house roll. I don't know how y'all's is. I'm not saying y'all's is wrong, because, you know, when people get in situations, they get in their feelings. And whatever. So for me and my husband, yes, it's both of us keep our house clean. Both of us can cook. Both of us wash dishes. That's just what it is. My husband don't just rely on me to be in that role or whatever. He never has. Why? Because his mama taught him how to do all these things, just like we taught our boys how to do all these things. And so what happens is, this is an example. So let's just say I come in as the wife, right? And say my husband don't work. Let's say he retired military, he don't work, whatever the case may be. He's here at the house all day. And so he done pretty much cleaned the house. He done cooked. Not something that I require, but that's just something that he want to do. And that's just how the King family is, baby. They some busy people, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. And so anyway, I come in and let's say it's a pile of clothes in the floor. And I'm tripping and acting a fool over a pile of clothes that's in the floor. But the rest of my house is straight up clean. And so I start acting a fool. That causes further arguments in our marriage or whatever. And I'm not catching that I'm taking advantage of my husband. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I have a good man. I can't stand to see when people, quote unquote, make it in a profession. When my husband got the rank of E7 in the military, guess what? I was that wife that was supporting him and pushing him on. But see, this is what makes me mad. When people start to, quote unquote, make it, then you don't pay attention to how much the hard work, the dedication, and the effort that your spouse has put in. Okay, God, in my opinion, did not design for marriage to be to the point of where you take for granted your spouse. And then you make your spouse feel less than because they're not keeping up to some standards that you created in your mind when you can get your tail up and do the same exact thing. I don't like for a husband or a wife to look down on a husband or their wife because they feel like they have made it. That's kind of like, you know how when, especially those who have moved away from home and you go back, you have some people that let's say they got their doctorate or whatever. And, oh, I'm Dr. So-and-so now. And then when they go back, I'm trying not to say it because it's an inspirational show. Okay, I'm just going to say it like this. They crapping on their family members. They looking down to them. They turning their nose down. That should not happen in family, and it definitely shouldn't happen in marriage. So, are you guilty of taking your spouse for granted? See, I don't like to speak negativity, but I do like to speak truth, okay? And y'all know this about me if y'all been listening to my videos for some time, but I need to get the point across so people can understand. What I always tell people is, baby, you better realize and recognize what you got, honey. Because when you don't realize and recognize what you got, you're going to realize and recognize what you had when you seen what you got with somebody else, okay? And you can't sit up and get mad. And that's what really burns, it just boils my blood, is where you don't realize and recognize what you have because you're taking it for granted. You know, you in the doggone military, and you know your spouse was doing your correspondence courses for you and doing your college courses because your spouse was sitting up thinking, if I help you out and help you get promoted, that's going to better us. You see what I'm saying? You know doggone good and well when you walk your tail across that stage to get that degree that it was your spouse that was helping you out doing your math homework and everything like that because you know your tail don't like math. But then when you walk across, you know what I'm saying? You ain't even thinking about the work that your spouse has put in. And I sure can't stand this. Let you go to a company Christmas party or a company ball or something like this, and oh, you done made it. You see what I'm saying? And then it comes to a point where other people come across. Somebody feel me on this. Other people come across to meet you, to meet your spouse, and you have a whole conversation. Good morning, Shauna. You don't introduce your spouse to nobody. Look, she said, I remember those days. You don't introduce your spouse to nobody. Your spouse sits there like the little kid that is irrelevant in your marriage. That is a prime example of taking your spouse for granted. Because, baby, let me tell you, when you in a real marriage, when you done matured in your marriage, honey, nothing else matters. You got your honey's hand and you say, come on, baby, get up. You know what I'm saying? Get up, baby. Hey, this is my beautiful wife, or this is my handsome husband, Kenya. You know what I'm saying? Let them people know, baby. And that's how you validate your spouse. And that's how you make your spouse feel like they are part of the marriage. Good morning, Tracy. But don't take your crusty tail to no event. You got me all dressed up. I done got my hair done and everything like that. You holding and carrying on a whole conversation for a whole 15, 30 minutes. He, ha ha, and I'm standing there looking like a fool. What? They tell you to stand up. I done supported your tail to come and get an award. I'm just using us as an example, whatever. Oh, well, Mr. King stand up. He got the Army Civilian of the Year award. And then you get your tail up there. Tell me, I like to thank God. I like to thank my boss. I like to thank my coworkers, because without y'all, I wouldn't be where I am today. And everybody looking at the wife like, okay, what is going on with that picture? Baby, you're not validating your spouse, number one. Good morning, Joanne. You're not validating your spouse, and you are you sitting up here and you are not really just honoring your spouse. The one, good morning, Phoenix, who helped you put in work. Don't look your tail. And I tried to be as really calm as I could. But baby, when God allows me to see things, God allows me to see things in front of me like it's nothing. And I got to speak about it. Hey, Didi. So I know y'all probably like, dang, Shan, you up in this situation, whatever. Now, I ain't gonna lie. My baby was guilty of when we was in the military, standing there, whatever. And I be like, I'm just like, and he looking, baby, you okay? You okay? Oh, okay. So what I was saying, what? Baby, y'all already know all up in y'all shondo. It was on and popping when we got in the vehicle, and it sure was on and popping when we got to the house. I'm just keeping it real. We used to argue over things like that. And I used to tell him, excuse me, hello. Hello, I'm your wife. How can you sit up and have a whole conversation with people, but less known another woman where you he and ha and you forget to, baby, I'm so bad about this because it irritates my soul, and it always has, honey, to where I'm like, hey, how you doing? Let me be talking to anybody. Hey, this is my husband, Kenya. And then my husband looking at me like, baby, I've met them before. I'm just covering my bases, bruh. I am just covering my bases to make sure you ain't gonna feel no kind of way. Hey, sis Lisa. Hey, cousin Makisha. That you don't feel no kind of way, baby, when we walk away from this situation. I couldn't remember right off the cuff if y'all met each other before, but I'm just covering my bases. You know what I'm saying? But no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So I need you to quit taking advantage of the fact that you have a good husband and that you have a good wife. Baby, don't get to the point to where you make it when your husband or your wife and they help you grind to get to that level and you looking down your nose at them. God did not design marriage to be like that. Because see, we got to keep in mind the scripture, we are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. We are no longer two. We are one flesh. All right, Phoenix, you better say that. We are one flesh. You see what I'm saying? So, baby, whatever accolades and achievement that you get, especially if you got that type of husband or wife that helps push you. They push you. And this is where I've seen this all so often, to where you're not motivated to do anything. And I think I told this once before, but when my husband was in the military, he was like, I'm good at being an E5, which is just a entry-level supervisor for those of y'all who don't understand military terminology. Hey, Brandon. He was good at just being an E5. And I'm sitting up here like, because, baby, once you teach me how I could do things to progress and move on up like George and Wheezy, baby, I'm doing it. And he was like, no, I'm good. I got good soldiers and this and that and the other. I said, baby? And I wasn't trying to tell him. Baby, you can't retire at the military as an E5 doing some 20 plus years with all these deployments you done did. Baby. And so I gently encouraged my husband to do better. But let me tell you about this on the flip side. I don't need us to act a whole fool as wives or husbands either once they get to that point. Once my husband got to the point where he retired, that was not my place to try to take his moment and take his shine. Those who are affiliated with the military, and y'all can relate this to the job as well. You know how you got that boss? She ain't bit more running nothing, but baby, she come up in there. Well, the husband is the boss, but she come up in there like she running everything. Yes, y'all all married and everything like that, but baby, I'm gonna need you to go get a whole job, okay? This ain't you. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, back to my husband. When he retired, I stood there like the proud wife, all cute. I clapped for my husband and I didn't have to say nothing. Was I crying? Yes, I was, because guess what? I helped you get to that point. What I loved about my husband that he said was, baby, this is our retirement. He said, because you are the one that pushed me to get to E7. You are the one that pushed me to do better. And this is when I generally see where the husband or the wife take their spouse for granted, because it was your husband or your wife that pushed you to get to that point. They encouraged you. They told you, baby, you could do it when you wanted to give up. They were the loudest ones screaming for you when you achieved your goal, but you got the audacity to look down on them because you got a doctorate degree and they don't. They serving in the United States Army, or because, they done made it to the level of a radiologist, which was their dream, or actor, or whatever it is that they wanted to do. And you made it to that point and you got the nerve enough to look down on them like they less than you, baby. I'm going to need you to flip the script, honey. I'm going to need you to motivate your spouse just like they motivated you. I can't stand. And see, this is okay. We can't stand when we see somebody trying to come up. You know what I'm saying? They married this individual for the come up. I'm just going to put it out there. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, just let me know and I'll come back and explain. I'll type it out. When you marrying somebody just because you want to come up, when it look like they got their stuff together. Hey, Sister Lola, when it look like they got their stuff together. Oh, you got a roof over your head. You taking care of your kids. Hey, Bridget. Oh, you doing this, you doing that. Yeah, let me go ahead and woo you. See, this is where my singles come in, baby. Don't get wooed by the foolery. Don't get wooed by the foolery, honey. Some of the married folks can tell you, Phoenix, I'm not going to play with you on this. You crazy, girl. Some of the married folks don't get played by the foolery. They sitting up here telling you everything, speaking sweet nothings in your ear, honey. They saying all the right words, baby. Before you know it, you done said I do, and you got a whole bum on your hands, okay? Because they married you to have a roof over their head. They married you so they can drive your car and drop your tail off at work. Who am I talking to on the day? They married you because they ain't had no money in the first place. They just had to get up out their mama house. You see what I'm saying? So be careful, my singles, of individuals. If they not mature, don't get wooed by the horizontal tango. Because see, some of y'all be getting wooed and then your mind ain't working right. It's not thinking like it would. You ain't as sharp as you used to be because the horizontal tango. I'm going to leave it at that, okay? I'm trying to keep it G-rated. Don't get wooed by that. Because what ends up happening is the person end up coming up off of you. And I'm not trying to have it to the place to where you are walking around and you got trust issues when it comes to people. The only thing that I'm saying is seek God, baby. If God does not give you, this is who you need to be with, then sit your tail down and continue to do what it is that you need to do. Because I'm going to tell you this, somebody is watching, honey. Somebody is watching. Like my husband told me, he was like, no, I was watching you. I seen how you carried yourself. I seen how you operated. So for my single ladies and my dudes, okay, yes, it says a man that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtain favor from the Lord. That's what the scriptures say. But I need you to know, ladies, somebody is watching you. And don't allow them to see the representative where you always got your hair done, you got your teeth brushed, your body odors in check. And then when you get married and you say, I do, you smell like a whole funky mess. No, your girl's going to tell you if don't nobody tell you. Be who God has created for you to be, but know that somebody is watching you. They're trying to see how you're carrying yourself. They're trying to see, is this the one? Is this wife material? Is this husband material? Or whatever the case may be. They got their eyes on you. And not only are they watching you, but the leeches are watching you. The ones that's trying to come up. And see how you have to decide. You got to discern. That's where, okay, God, I got Joe over here and I got Jackson over here. Now, Jackson seemed like God, this and this and this, baby. You better weigh them pros and cons. You heard me? But what we do is because that we done got thrown on us, that horizontal tango, baby, we sit up here and we lose all judgment. I'm going to need you to keep your cognition, baby. Keep your mind sharp. And then you seek ye first. Matthew 6:33. God, this joker said, I'm just saying, Brandy, this joker said % God. Who should I be with? Before you allow your emotions, and that's where we mess up as women. Baby, we allow our emotions to get caught up in that 10 o'clock wonder and can't nobody tell us nothing. Your friends, your family, Jesus then came down and touched you and said, this is not the one. But then you sit up and you try to prove everybody wrong and you try to make it work and the only one that's hurting is you. So dismiss yourself for all this. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and seek God. Keep your cognition. Keep your thinking cap on, as they taught us in school. But I tell you this, if you have a good husband or you got a good wife, quit taking them for granted, baby. Because I'm not trying to be mean, and I don't wish divorce and negativity on anybody. But baby, sometime in my soul, I be wanting to pray and say, Lord, go ahead and bring her good man. Lord, go ahead and bring her good woman, because this joker don't realize and understand what he got. He ain't mature. She not mature. She talking her husband down like a dog. She treating him like he trash. She making him feel less than herself and belittling him because she got a degree behind her name, or he's making her feel less than because he done made it on his job. And then you sit up here and forget about the one that helped you make it, and you sit up here hee-heeing and ha-haing with the one at work. The one that's in your profession, that's all up in your face, because she's the one that's trying to come up off of the hard work of your husband or your wife that helped you to get to the place of where you are today. Okay? Like I always say, don't nobody want to hear no truth. Y'all can sit up here and say I'm lying. Where's the lies in this? That's what I like to ask. So please, for the love of God, if you have found that you take your husband or your wife for granted, baby, I need you to check yourself. Y'all got to forgive me for quoting songs, but I'm a music person. Music is in my soul. I was raised in a musical family. Check yourself before you wreck yourself and your whole marriage, okay? I don't even know who used to sing that song, but I'm going to need you to check yourself, because what's about to happen is that in what you take for granted, God is going to gently say, oh, you're not respecting my daughter? Oh, you're not respecting my son? Oh, okay, let me go ahead and remove my son and my daughter from this situation so they can no longer be hurt. Let me go ahead and allow them to just heal so they can realize and recognize the things in the marriage so they won't repeat the error and the mistake again. Let me go ahead, because my son and my daughter, you are ready right now to receive your true blessing. You didn't listen to me the first time. You jumped out there on your own. You jumped ahead of my will and my purpose for your life. So you didn't listen to me. But now I think you're ready and you are mature enough to receive the person in whom I've created for you to marry. That's going to treat you like a king. That's going to raise you up like a queen. That's going to worship the ground that you walk on. Baby, don't get caught up in life in your marriage. Do not get caught up in your life to where you start taking your spouse for granted. That's why so many divorces out there. So if this is you, I need you to pull yourself back, check yourself. All these people that you trying to front for outside of your marriage that mean you no good, they don't care nothing about you in the first place. They leeching off of you, trying to have a come up as well. All these people and these irrelevant factors, baby, you need to sit back. Even if you got to be like Jesus and go in the wilderness for 3 or 4 days, sit back. And you know what? I do have a good husband. And this is the last thing I'm going to say right here. And your girl, she ain't going to check out, because I'm going to leave y'all to marinate this on the weekend, because this gets some soul too. I didn't like this when I was a child. And some of y'all going to really be able to relate to this. This is another blatant example of where you take your spouse for granted. When you can't even come to your spouse and tell your spouse, I tell my husband all the time, baby, you are a good husband. Baby, thank you so much for providing for us. Thank you so much for having a roof over our head. You know, this, that, and other. But how trifling would I be if I was that wife where I'm always barking at my husband inside the home, and then when I go outside the home, I'm sitting, yeah, I got me a good husband. Yeah, my husband. You know how your spouse don't validate you? Let's be real. Y'all don't tell on yourself, but your spouse don't validate you. But then when you do finally get to meet somebody on their job, they say, your husband talk about you all the time. Your wife brag about her husband all the time, and how it's a pleasure to finally get to meet you. And you sitting up here like, thank you. Thank you. But you looking like, really, Joker? You don't tell me this kind of mess at the house. You don't tell me how good of a wife. So why you out here bragging in these streets? That's been a common term this last week. Quit bragging in the streets about how good your child is doing. That's what I was talking about, I think, on Tuesday and Wednesday. Go back if you miss it. Quit bragging in these streets about how good your husband or your wife is doing, but you can't even tell them at home. Because, baby, the validation starts at home. If you kicking them down and all you can do is complain about everything that they do wrong, and you treating them like they a peasant in their own home, if that's your husband or your wife, you can't bring no validation to them, baby. Then don't be talking about it in the streets, because it's a slap in the face when somebody talking about, it's a pleasure I finally get to meet you, and your wife brag about you all the time. Girl, I be at work and I feel the heat off the individuals, and when I was at work, and I'm looking like, ooh, that joker don't be telling his wife how good she is at home. Ooh, baby, you was just cussing your husband out. I heard you when he dropped you off for work in the parking lot. You was cussing him out, but you coming in and you bragging. I got me a good man. My husband. That is sure example of how you do not value your marriage and how you do not value your spouse. Baby, quit telling people in the streets how good everything is. You better start whispering some sweet nothings in your spouse's ear, because guess what? It does get to a point, and yes, we do encourage marriage, but it does get to a point where the situation is so toxic and the individual gets sick and tired of being sick and tired to where they say, you know what? I can't do this no more. And they hand you some divorce papers and they dot that doorstep. And so that's when you sit up and get mad. And like I said, you see them in another relationship about 5 or 6 years down the line, and everything is working well for them. And then you verbalize and abuse the person that you used to, oh, I see it's working in your marriage now. Why couldn't it work like that? Baby, leave that person alone. You had them and you did not value what you had. So leave that person alone. Let them live their life in happiness. Let them get the joy and the peace that they should have had in your marriage. Okay? I'm just speaking this because it's a wake-up call. I'm sick and tired of seeing husbands and wives take advantage of a good person. You break them down. You make them broken. And then when God blesses them, because God has seen their good heart, then you mad. Baby, don't get mad at them, honey. Well, that's why it's working out, because y'all was cheating. That's the first thing somebody want to say. Well, usually 9 times out of 10, well, if you give about an 80% chance, yeah, that's probably a fact in most cases, especially what I've seen in the military. But anyway, in most cases, that may be a fact. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, if you was doing what you was supposed to be doing in your marriage, let me holler at somebody. And I'm not saying this because you got some people cheating is just in their DNA, and they got to wrestle against that demon. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what I'm going to call it. So I'm not trying to, well, why is clicking out there get mad? You saying the reason why my husband cheated on me? No, the bottom line of what I'm saying today is don't take your spouse for granted. Because I'm telling you, just like kicking a dog, baby, that dog is either going to bark back at you and bite you smooth up in your behind, or they're going to leave. Okay, so y'all have a blessed weekend. Don't let anybody steal your joy. Share this because it's free. Because a lot of people don't know how to not take their husband or their wife for granted in their marriage, because they're used to taking their parents for granted. They're used to taking their brothers and sisters for granted. They're used to looking down on other individuals. That's just who they are. But maybe they can learn something from this video. So your girl, she ain't gonna be back with y'all on Monday with whatever God placed in my heart. I highly encourage you, get with your honey, go on date night, take some pictures, whatever the case may be, have a good time. Get back to the place of where you appreciate your husband or your wife, and stop taking them for granted, because you don't want to find yourself by yourself. All right. Have a blessed day and blessings to you.